small.
This meeting is being recorded.
Okay, it's being recorded. Oh, that's crazy. Okay. Well,
it never used to be so official with the like notification and the "Do you want to leave now?" thing.
Oh, is it? Well, did like a thing pop up when it said? Yeah. Oh, that's hella legit now. But yeah, you still there, Cameron?
I'm still here.
Oh, okay. Everyone came back. That was my bad. That was my fault. Yeah. So welcome to the Decolonizing Politics podcast, starred by Jeff Riley, Cameron, and Jessica. Everybody like to say hi? Hi. Yeah, hi. To our viewers. Hey, hi.
What's up?
Who wants to introduce themselves? I'll introduce myself first. My name is Jeff Riley. Currently doing a part-time MA at Goldsmiths, and currently in the field of art, regretfully and also gratefully. Yeah, I'm always trying to push my practice in whatever spaces I can get them into. But I do other stuff as well. But yeah, that's me in a short sum up. How about you, Jessica?
How about me? Okay. Our background is in sculpture and in kind of critical writing and art and design. And, do some teaching, work with you at Brixton Project, work on kind of community arts organizations. And yeah, that's me. How about you, Cameron?
Yeah, despite what my actual display name says, my name's Cameron Aitchison-Labar. I currently work for 154, the Contemporary African Art Fair, and I am the Forum Program Assistant. And Forum is our public program where we basically put on socio-political talks pertaining to African art, politics, and things of that nature. They're all to do with, as I mentioned, African art and artists from the continent and from its diaspora. And yeah, we're just really looking to put on forms of discussions and exchange knowledge productions surrounding things of that nature. Also a practicing artist myself when I can find the determination and commitment to do so. And yeah, that's me. That's what I got up to. Ex-Goldsmiths alumni as well. So I feel you, Jeff.
So yeah, it's a wonderful feeling, right?
When you graduate, the existential stuff starts there.
Yeah, it starts creeping in. When have you guys come across this term decolonize? Because I feel like, for me at least, it started kind of creeping into mainstream media, academia, and then there was like a huge explosion, and all of a sudden decolonize was a buzzword everywhere. Kind of wanted to know when you guys came across that word.
I'm happy to jump in with this first bit. That's right, Jessica. Well, for me personally, yeah, like you said, I definitely agree that it's kind of come into the forefront of a lot of people's conversations in the last maybe 4 or 5 years in a kind of mainstream way, but I think it's been happening for decades. But personally, in all honesty, came about in the last year of my undergrad. So I graduated in maybe 2015 or so, 2014. 2018. That's a lie. And yeah, that was the first time I'd ever heard it, despite all my years in education. I barely even knew what colonialism was. So I was completely blown away to even know that decolonialism was a thing. So until my master's in post-colonial culture and global policy, that I really began to unpick what that word meant and the repercussions of those things and the different type of world building elements that can really be birthed from such a context.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Jessica? When did you come across it?
I agree. I think probably like similarly recently, I feel like it's been picked up as a buzzword, and now it's like everything can be, or we're going to say that we can decolonize everything, right? Anything, we'll just put that on it, and that's what we're doing. But even in like trying to think about the academic kind of circles that I've been in, and like even on my MA, it wasn't something we were necessarily talking about, or that was in discourse around what we were reading or what we were responding to. But I think outside of that, and within that, but more outside of that, like in community movements, it's always been there. It just hasn't been called that. Like we're all striving for that. We're just not calling it decolonizing this, decolonizing that. It's just a movement that we're all hopefully buying into and trying to push forward.
Yeah, definitely. I remember I think it was my last year of doing my BA in anthropology, and we were trying to kind of come up with a definition for it. And when you actually look at the word decolonize, obviously the term colonize is in there. And my first instinct, and a lot of us, I think, in the class were like, how does one literally undo colonization? How does one, you can't go back in time. You can't undo. It's like saying demurdering. I don't know, like you can't unkill someone, or you can't unsteal something, or you can't on a literal sense. And I think sometimes I get stuck in that loop of thinking, well, if you can't do it literally, can you actually achieve, So
but I think that is kind of, sorry to jump in.
No, go ahead.
I think that it's a problem you see a lot with language, and how, especially in the West, we use language, right? Because we can throw decolonize out there, and like you said, then people think of it as literally like, okay, well, how do I decolonize this? Well, I can't, like that part of it's happened, so I can't do that. And it's like, well, actually the use of language around it and the words we're using are just another barrier to get where we're actually trying to go to. 100%. Because really, do we want to decolonize this, which is probably fundamentally a thing we cannot do? Like, we cannot go back in time and stop what has happened. I don't think that's what we mean when we use that word, or I don't think that's what the movement around that word means. I think, like, how do we collectively heal? That's much more open, and people can buy into it, and it makes more sense moving forward. And also from a like institute, I can't speak as an institution because I've never worked in a museum. I don't represent a museum, but I think those words are kind of thrown at you and you immediately become defensive. But actually, what if we're all collectively, that's something that is easier to buy into, and on a personal level you understand that, as well as on a large scale. Like, I personally understand what it means to heal on different fronts, like be it from a cut, or be it from an emotional trauma, or be it from a historical trauma. So if I understand that on a personal level, I can then understand that on a bigger level, and I can then move forward with that. I understand what it's like for someone else to heal. I understand what it's like to heal from a trauma that's collective rather than individual. I understand what it would mean to heal a relationship on a personal level, and then also on a global level, or on a like this country to this country level. And I think then language is helping us, whereas I think language like decolonize actually isn't helping us. It's creating another barrier to the end goal.
There is definitely a type of obscuring, especially as the term has been more mainstream and kind of co-opted by certain, neoliberal, like living in the more 21st century neoliberal politics and ideologies of this time. Capitalism has very much co-opted those movements in terms to, as you said, allow the, I guess, more general meaning and context of what it means to decolonize to shine through in that kind of way. So I would definitely agree. Language is always always, but it definitely gets in the way for sure.
Yeah. There was on the topic of language, but also on the topic of kind of other individuals kind of defining it, because I understand that like I was saying, when you actually think of it, and in a literal sense, one cannot decolonize. However, I guess we're thinking of it we're thinking of it through quite a linguistic lens. But what if we think of it through a kind of political lens, where it's not about exactly what it does, but more of it being a process, if that makes sense. Decolonizing is a process. It's a historical process. I think it was like Frantz Fanon was saying how it's a historical process, and to decolonize is operating in a space of complete chaos. And when he said complete chaos, I was kind of wondering, what does he mean by complete chaos? And like coming to my own conclusions, I think when he says complete chaos, he's talking about how with each, I guess, moments of decolonizing, and I'm trying to like find like a colloquial way of saying this, I guess. Because of what empire has left, that residue, imperial residue that's been left, is us operating in complete chaos. Do you know what I'm trying to say? It's empire has left chaos, if that makes any sense. Yeah. So, you know, to decolonize is to operate through complete and absolute chaos. And when we kind of, I don't know what happens when we reach the end of this chaotic period, but I don't know what a decolonized space looks like personally. Yeah, well, we're in the process. There's obviously spaces like universities, you know, decolonizing the curriculum, decolonizing, like I guess, the actual lecture, the method of lecturing. I'm living through that, but what a decolonized society looks like, I have no idea. But I guess we're still dredging through that space of complete chaos. We're still dredging through, you know.
Yeah, no, definitely. I really back what you were saying about it being a process, you know, because I think maybe you will relate to the kind of way like, decolonizing one's own previous, as you said, imperial hangovers, imperial residue, is from this very structured and ordered and logical, rational way of thinking that was born out of the Enlightenment. But as you said, through all of that came chaos for the other, or for those that were under the thumb of oppression and things like that. So for us, and unlearning these things is a gradual process. And it's not only that happens in the mind and in the body and then stuff like that, but also is a process that comes with that can happen through politics and also through healing of the land and all sorts of stuff, you know what I mean? And within the institutions as well, as you said, whether it be the curriculum or the repatriation or reparations of and those kind of things, of artifacts, or all those types of conversations. So it's a very, very slow and gradual process. But I think there are some spaces and institutions that are quite kind of making a headway in this kind of contexts. Sorry, you're on mute, Jeff.
Yeah. You see is it a company? Is it an establishment? What you're working for at the moment? Would you say you guys are making legway in decolonizing, I guess, art spaces or archiving, crucial works that are?
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, for the company itself started in 2013 with our founder, Toria El Glawi. And her father was a famous painter. And when she first started, 154, the Contemporary African Art Fair, there were hardly any African artists within large scale art fairs or art institutions themselves. Research shows, if I remember correctly, around 2013, in big art fairs like Frieze, Art Basel, and etc., out of countless galleries and booths and people that were at the showcasing their works at the fairs themselves, maybe 0.5% individuals were from African backgrounds, or cases, and paints a picture of how much of a work had to be done, really. So since that time, I can't give you the figures. I know that 154, the Contemporary African Art Fair, is one of the leading institutions in showcasing contemporary African art. And what we do is we have 3 fairs throughout the year, one in London, one in the art capitals of the world, one in New York, and one in Marrakesh. So it's really important to think about these things, and how London, New York, Marrakesh, and we just had a pop-up there in Paris, have such a colonial relationship to the continent of Africa, you know, and whether it be the fact that a lot of these artworks and aspects were stolen and exist in these spaces, but they are art capitals themselves. So to have us, the other, the African, or however you want to frame it, alongside these art fairs, and people are coming to see artists and buying our works, and things like that, is one could call it decolonization to a certain extent, but I think it's as you said, it's a process. It's showing that the African has been creating work for millennia just as much, and can compete with those other types of African, European fairs and things like that. So it's a very, very complex discussion. I think that 154 is really doing a good job, because they don't only just do fairs, they also work with organizations on the continent, whether they be museums who are, you know, showcasing and working with the repatriation of artifacts, or, you know, they're putting in art programs for the local community, and things like that. So they're working with very high profile and influential people to really make change for people on the continent, but also give young and contemporary African artists an insight and to show that art can be a very viable area for them, for Europeans, and has been for a very, very long time.
In terms of like the spaces we have here, and like how do we get community in? And I think, like, from your essay, it was also about like how does decolonizing also relate to gentrification, and how do we see these two things, I don't want to say working together, but like running kind of in parallel to each other, or influencing each other. And I think that's definitely something that we speak about when we speak about Brixton, is like gentrification here, how the community is changing. How do you bring the community into those spaces that are changing, right? And that's something that at the Brixton project we are obviously always thinking about, is like, okay, there's this space and these new people have come in, but how do you co-create that with the community? How do you bring community in? Actually, at what point do you bring the community in? Because we know, like previously in the past and really continuing, like developers bring the community in only at the point that they have to bring them in. Actually, what happens if you change that whole process, and co-creation happens with that community from the beginning? I don't think people are naive. I think people understand that communities change as areas become kind of more popular, more money comes into those areas, developers move into those areas, and areas are developing, right? That's just natural. That's how humanity has got to where it's got to. But how do you always make sure that you're bringing the community along? And I think that is what we work to do at the Brixton project, and I hope we're successful with it. I think we are, but it's a big job, right? It's a really big job, and we do a little bit of it every single day that we turn up to work.
You said something, Jessica. I didn't hear that.
Hello?
I can hear you.
I just said Cameron was, so I think it was working.
From
my
yeah.
I was hearing, and I was following for sure.
I think we should wrap this up, because the thing is finishing in about 5 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's finishing in about 5 minutes. But yeah, no, thank you so much for this brief conversation. I feel like definitely learned a lot. I should know,
No worries.
but I feel like I've learned more than, you know. So yeah, now much appreciated, guys. Can you guys hear me still?
To continue this.
Is he fully paused?
I think he's froze, yeah.
We need longer to have this conversation.
Yeah, no, I feel like more of these conversations do need to happen. Whether that's going to happen again, who knows? But I would love to facilitate another one. So that's to come on episode 2 of Speaking with. There we go.